welcome everyone to today's webinar. The topic today is AI trends to keep an eye on. Certainly AI has had a lot of hype last year, and I think is now starting to settle down as people are becoming more aware of what AI can do and where it works best and where it doesn't. So I think it's a very exciting time. It also has a big role to play in the times that we're living in right now, a very changed world. So first of all, I'd like to introduce David Naylor from Humanotics. David's a regular speaker on artificial intelligence. I think you were building neural networks many years ago.
Indeed, yeah. I didn't think it would lead to this, but you know, as life takes twists and turns, and it all comes back around as AI has done. So that's good.
Excellent. So helped on, no doubt, by the massive increase in computing power and data sets that people have available now. Also delighted to welcome Miguel Queteno from TalkDesk. Miguel, welcome to the webinar today.
Thank you, Jonty.
And Miguel, what are you going to be talking on later?
So later I'll be talking about 3 trends that I find that are really the trends that are being talked about in the contact centers today. I think the most interesting part of this webinar will be, or my part of the webinar will be, the way that we can use these technologies to you know, to help us out in moments of crisis, like the one we are living today. So yeah, stay seated for that.
Excellent. So that I think it's going to be very good. If you're not already logged into our chat room, we're carrying on the conversation, and the link here is at callcenterhelper.com/chat. The advantage is that you can carry on in the discussion. In fact, we've just had a message in from Peter who says, ask Dr. David about his book on AI from the 1990s. So one of the advantages is that we can have a conversation with the audience. You can also, once you're logged into the chat room, you can download the webinar slides. We've also got a quiz that we're going to have later in that as well. So I think that can work out quite well. It is in a separate window, so you can either dial in from your mobile phone. That's often one of the most convenient ways of doing it, or you can dial in from through a browser. And if your screen's big enough, put the chat room on one side, the slides on the other. As an added advantage, that we have a bottle of champagne, a box of chocolates, or an Amazon gift voucher, or even a bumper pack of toilet roll, should you need it. So if you'd like to use hashtag question for question or hashtag tip for tip, and we'll be pulling off the winning tip. Just like to start off with a quick poll to get everything warmed up. And I'd like to ask the question, when do you think chatbots will appear in your contact center? Have they already appeared? Do you think they will appear in the next 3 months, the next year, the next 5 years? Or do you think that they will never appear in your contact center? So it'll be interesting to see where you are on your journey. If you have any other comments on that, perhaps if you are already using chatbots, if you'd like to log into our chat room, and that is on cch.chat or callcenterhelper.com/chat, and then you can get the responses there. So let's just have a look here. And this is fascinating. This is the first time I've seen results like this. 49% of the audience already have a chatbot in their contact center, and a further 11% are hoping to get one in the next 3 months. About a quarter are expecting in the next year, and 14% over the next 5 years. Only nobody is saying we don't expect they'll be in the chat room. I need to dig out the results for a poll we did about 12 months ago, but the results there would have been very different. David, what's your thought on that one?
Well, it's in some ways it doesn't surprise me, sort of where we are with almost 50%. So they're having chatbots already. I think there's still a big learning curve to go through with a lot of those chatbots in terms of sort of what they're able to do and sort of capabilities of having good conversations with customers via chatbots. I think it's still some time off, and I think a lot of those people will probably be realizing that actually it takes time to get these things right. But I think it's great that people are having a go, and the technology is advancing very quick. So I think getting into that technology and learning how to use it is really important, sort of to do sooner rather than later. So yeah, clearly 3 months, there's a window of opportunity for people, or depending on which industry they're in, to work on these chatbots now, because they can support through the virus as well, to help people quickly get to those questions that they want to ask of an organization. So I think now is a good time, and over the next year I think we will see that sort of explosion of use to most operations by the looks of it.
Excellent. So just a reminder to everyone, we've got a lot of people joining us, just joined us. We are carrying on the conversation in the chat room. We've got about 50 people who are not yet logged into the chat room. So the address here is cch.chat. Just put that into your browser. Just put in your first name, last name, and email address, and you can download the slides. There's a lot of detail on David's and on Miguel's slides, so it'd be very well worth you doing that. I'm going to hand across now to David. And David, if you can take us through your thoughts on the trends on AI that we need to be looking out for.
Absolutely. So I'm just trying to get rid of the wonderful pictures of everyone on the webcam, actually.
We can see your slides, David.
You can see that, okay. I'm just going to make sure I can do. There we go. Perfect. Great. Well, thank you, Jonty. Great to be here today. Clearly, we're all living in a new reality at the moment, which is interesting times, difficult times for many people. And I suppose the reality that we have now reached with artificial intelligence is that there are challenges that it is creating for people, and it's not sort of this wonderful panacea of solutions that perhaps it was sold to everybody as a few years ago. So I want to talk about the reality of AI today in customer operations, and hopefully not just giving you examples of where it's being applied, but giving you a framework that you can use to take back to your operations and think about sort of the contact you're having with customers and the way you run those operations, and where sort of the capabilities that AI offers can be mapped into help driving improvements, whether it's in customer satisfaction, in growing revenue, or reducing cost and contact. So I'll take you through a few of those few applications, but the key thing is to think about the framework I'll leave you with today as well. So just to start, I just wanted to talk very briefly about our relationship with technology and how that's changed, so I guess some things to be wary of. So 15 years ago, Google introduced Google Maps, and I suppose, I don't know about you, but certainly I find that sort of my relationship with maps has changed very significantly because of the technology. I very rarely pick up a map anymore, perhaps when I go out walking, but I rely on Google Maps like everybody else. And sometimes when I'm in an unfamiliar place, I have no idea whether I'm going north, south, east, or west. I just punch it in and follow the track, follow the route. So this German artist, Simon Beckhardt, went out into Berlin a few weeks ago with a cart of 99 mobile phones and stopped on a bridge, which completely flummoxed Google Maps and told the system that there was a roadblock on that bridge. And as you can see on the left, sort of the Google Maps updated and showed how that road was blocked and there's delays. And so, while we embrace this technology, we also have to realize that it's fragile in some places. And when we think about how we use technology within our customer operations, we need to remember that. We need to remember that it's not the great solution that delivers everything we need. It's about balancing the use of technology with better people skills and sort of process improvement. So we just need to be bear that in mind with AI. And what are the realities of AI today? Well, this is a sort of headline we now see about driverless cars. They're not going to be on our roads in 2021, 2022, as were predicted a few years ago, because there's so many more things to think about in terms of getting these solutions right, beyond just sort of the technology that allows the car to drive, which is very advanced. But it's the whole implementation and deployment of these technology into the real world is the challenge. And that deployment into the real world is something which I think the execs in businesses today have started to realize is actually a little bit harder to do. So the view of how long it's going to take has shifted to from being sort of 3 years to get the business returns from artificial intelligence to certainly sort of 4 and more years, which I think is great, because sort of it's not, this technology is not something that's just going to fix everything, and there's so many different components, so many different applications of it. It's just about building this into your roadmap of continuous improvement and working out where best to use it. So that takes time for businesses, and you should consider it in the same way as you consider other technology. And so plan the roadmap, learn how the technology works, and build from there. So that's great. But the technology has advanced particularly fast in certain areas. So language understanding is a very important aspect of artificial intelligence that relates to contact center, because of the conversations we're having with customers day in, day out. And so I just wanted to look briefly at a couple of aspects of this. The first one is the natural language understanding. And there's a benchmark called the GLUE benchmark, which I've referenced previously. Last time I did a webinar, I think I sort of showed the first half of this graph, showing how the machine language capabilities were getting close to the human benchmark. As you can see, since the beginning of January last year, that performance has actually exceeded the human benchmark. So in terms of very specific tests where we're giving machines, I guess, comprehension tests as you would have in a school exam, they are performing as well as and slightly exceeding the average human benchmark in some of these tests. So that's very good, but it's just one aspect of how you how you build conversations from this technology. This is just understanding the one-way bit of the conversation, because the other side is thinking about how we generate language off the back of what we understand, and that's still very simplistic in its approach at the moment. So, for example, here there's one example of artificial intelligence being used to fill the gaps in some of the sort of monuments of the Greek tablets that exist all over the ancient world, where they've been damaged and destroyed, and the machine learning is predicting what text would fit in these gaps, and then that's being used by experts to decide whether that's right or wrong. But it's speeding up the process. It's generating that natural language, and then the other one is actually taking natural language and creating new content. So the machine is given a statement. In this case, Russia has declared war on the United States after Donald Trump accidentally finished the sentence, and the machine has then created a fairly scary sort of statement and story as a result of that. So, but again, it's a one-sided thing. It's takes some text, generates some more text, but that's very different to actually creating conversations with machines. And I think as chatbots users discover, a lot of that conversation, most of that conversation, is still something which we are generating in a fairly scripted way. But it's advancing, and these things are all going in the right direction, but there's more work still to be done. And so, when I sort of look at sort of the contact center, as I say, sort of, it's really important to come back to a framework in which you can start to apply sort of the technologies I'm going to talk about shortly. And I typically use this model called the value irritant model to help structure my thinking and thinking that I help clients with, into the types of contact that you're getting, the types of interactions you're having. The question is, how valuable is the contact to an organization, and how valuable is it to the customer? So if the contact isn't valuable to both, i.e. it's an irritant, then we want to eliminate that contact. You know, it's failure demand, it's not necessary. We need to work to improve the process and take it out of the system altogether. If it's a value to the customer but an irritant to the organization, then how can we automate it? How can you give the customer what they want, but avoid having cost and human interaction as a result of fulfilling the customer's need? That could be sort of checking on account balances or minutes on your mobile account, etc. All sorts of things. And that's clearly where bots and automation of conversations can come in, which I'll talk about again in a moment. If it's of value to the organization but not to the customer, which could be maybe an onboarding process where you need the customer to provide information for compliance purposes or money laundering, etc., then how do you simplify that? How can you automate it and simplify it so that the customer can do these processes in a matter of minutes rather than hours or days? And then if it's of value to both organization and customer, you need to resource it. You need to give your people the tools and the skills and the capabilities to support those customers. So for the customers who can't pay their bills, for instance, at a time like now, how do you sort of deal with that in a very human way? And because it's important for you as an organization to engage with those customers and plan out how they are going to pay. So this model is something you can get more information on this by following the link to the website that I've got on the page here, so / value irritant, and there's a lot more background on it. But specifically what I want to talk to you about is then how you map artificial intelligence into this model, and where does artificial intelligence help in servicing, in supporting each of these quadrants. And this is not a black and white picture. There is a bit of grey overlap between different categories, and you can certainly sort of see predictive models not just being used to help eliminate contact, but also help to drive sales performance up in the top quadrant. So there are sort of exceptions and variations to this, but it's a starting point to start thinking about sort of those applications. And so I'm going to talk in a few minutes a little bit more about some of these areas in particular. But before I do that, I guess when you start to sort of plan out your applications and what you're going to do, you need to be thinking about what your business objectives actually are, and think about what your biggest challenges are going to be. So we just wanted to stop for a poll briefly and just just understand sort of your view of what's the biggest drivers for you in applying AI in your customer operation. Is it about reducing contact? Is it reducing cost? Is it customer satisfaction? Or is it sort of revenue generation? Jonty, do you want to run the poll?
Jonty, I think you're on mute.
What's your biggest driver for implementing AI? Is it customer satisfaction, revenue generation, contact reduction, for instance, dealing with high volumes, or is it cost reductions? What is why is it you're looking to implement AI in the contact center? I think most of you have voted. Now I'm just going to share the results with you all. And so here we are, David. By far the largest is contact reduction. I guess in the current situation, particularly, how do you deal with high volumes? Can you deflect people to that? Followed by customer satisfaction, and encouragingly, only 24% of the audience are looking to do it for cost reduction reasons. So I think that's sort of very encouraging results.
Yeah, and I think that that again doesn't surprise me. I think that's good. I think customer satisfaction probably sort of winds very closely through sort of most of the most organizations today, but you know, cost reduction, contact reduction are still key issues, which I think, you know, is useful when, you know, sort of just looking back at the slide here, you know, sort of some of the key things around the contact reduction are obviously eliminating contact, but also the automation. So yeah, I guess in that contact reduction, people are probably thinking about automation as much as they are thinking about eliminating bad processes. Which, you know, what we tend to find is that, you know, the majority of contact that clients have when we work through a model to map in their contact to this framework is in the automate or the category where you could automate it, or it needs to be eliminated. So that aligns quite nicely with sort of what we find as the objectives of most organizations. So if we just move forward, let's just take a look at some of the technologies, and I'm going to focus on a few real examples of application systems that are out there you can access today, because I think they're sort of fairly leading edge. But I also just want to talk a little bit about sort of the bots, because and I know Miguel will talk about that as well. But just where we are with trends in bots, and we're sort of moving quite quickly into the conversational bot world. We've gone through, or most organizations have started in very simple bots where you're perhaps sort of looking at using tiles to guide the customer. It's almost an IVR type bot, but because of the advances in conversational capability, starting to use natural language in both text bots, chat bots, but more particularly now in phone channel, which is something that you know, we're helping a number of clients to deploy. But there's still some very simple sort of components in these bots at the moment. The ability to listen and understand is the natural language component, and that's probably the most advanced aspect of them from an artificial intelligence perspective. And there's various, you know, every company has the model, their own model, or uses Google's model, or potentially Amazon's models for natural language analysis, and then builds their framework around that in terms of how you then, once you've understood what the customer said, what you then do in terms of sort of classifying and acting and responding to the customer, whether that's, you know, asking another question or getting some more information, or playing some information back to the customer. And that's a typical loop that we go around, and it's quite structured and quite scripted in most cases. And I think where the technology is taking us is more towards what I talk about as cognitive agents, and these are sort of agents which I suppose are much more aware of the environment they're in, in terms of that conversation, and the more subtle aspects of the interaction with the customer, as well as sort of external data that they can bring in to help improve the experience. So, you know, if we go around that loop very quickly, you know, you've got listening and understanding is not just about words, but it's about tone. You know, when we're talking about either written tone and also, you know, spoken tones. And, you know, when we start to get to the video applications of bots, which is starting to take off in some industries like recruitment, and, you know, will be, you know, coming to a contact center near you, I'm sure, very soon, the facial expressions that are being captured by from the other end of the camera, and then the data that we've got in our organizations, whether it's to do with the context of what's happened on this conversation so far, or whether it's to do with previous conversations you've had with customers, or just information about the customer. So, you know, if they are ringing up to get support for, you know, television or some other electrical item, well, you know what that is, you know what TV it is, what brand it is, because they bought it from you 3 months ago. So probability is, you know, let's offer them support on that particular device, rather than asking them what's the make and model and blah blah blah. So, you know, simple things really, but, you know, sort of requiring integration and sort of much more awareness of the wider context. And then machine learning is helping us with things like sentiment and stress. And I think today we're looking at those things in post-interaction ways, but we'll start to bring those into the interactions more and say, okay, well, we're talking to a customer about a technical support issue, but we can see they're getting stressed. We could keep taking them down this track, but clearly they don't have the skills really, or the knowledge to help themselves. So rather than just going down this process and trying to get them to resolution, let's escalate this. Let's at least push it to a live agent, or to a phone call. So you're using this information in the real context, in the live context, to actually make decisions on which next step to take. And in terms of responding, it's thinking about how you mirror the customer in the words they're using and the language they're using, even down to making sure that the voice that is used to respond to that customer is adapted to slow down the conversation that the words they're playing back to you in an audio interaction, or changing the actual voice tone and style to match the customer. And then the big one at the moment is around sort of using humans in the loop to help improve these bots. And as we're advancing now, we're starting to get a lot more machine learning, not necessarily sort of making decisions about how you improve the process, sort of without actually a human being in the loop, but actually making recommendations on how to handle new situations or exceptions, or how to personalize the situation better for a particular the conversation better for a particular subset. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But it's about bringing these technologies into the conversation and using them to adapt the conversation, rather than just using them offline to analyze what happened and then try and make decisions about how you change the model, the script, in going forward manually. And here's an example of that extra data. Here, this is the video data, identifying the customer, what the facial expressions of the customer, and all sorts of different things, from the lips and the eyebrows, etc. And I think the point here is that this information is in itself is just information. The challenge is how you take this and embed it into behavioral models that help make decisions around what you then do with how you change the conversation with the customer as a result of this. So while this is out there now, and you could go to iEmotions and you could implement this and start tracking, actually it's the science that's important of what you do and how you change things as a result that still needs to be encapsulated in the tools that we use in contact centers in order to have an impact on the outcome for the business and for customers. And here's another example from a company called Avoira, and again, what you see here, this is speech analytics. It's real-time speech analytics, and there's just again a lot of information that's available in this system. Something which is people will say, we've been waiting for this for many years, and you're right. There's a lot of valuable information coming out of this system, whether it's looking at the top, productivity time, so who's speaking, sort of, and how long, and how much silence is in there, through to emotions and sentiment scores, and then right down to what words are being used in real time, and whether those words are positive or negative. And so this is a great platform for doing sort of to get an understanding of the analytics. But what you can also do with this is actually you can present this in a dashboard to the advisor or to the team leaders. But it's a dashboard which is tailored to the interaction. So this amount of information would overload somebody, but if you tailor it and you customize it to help the advisors, particularly during conversations where they need to say certain things around compliance, as you can see in this example here, you can sort of see on the keywords that are being said. Are we seeing those keywords or not? Has the call been compliant? So the model that the data would push to the agent is, yes, a very simple sort of picture that shows, yes, you've passed compliance in terms of the way you've handled this call. That's great. So it's about working out what's required at what time to present to an agent. And the way this system is being used.
David, we are running a little short on time, so
okay.
Got a couple of
I'll speed up. Yep. So this has been used around proactive complaint resolution. So actually listening to calls and listening to these challenges which are being made by customers, and then saying, okay, well, we think these calls will lead to complaints. Let's go and outbound call these customers. And in their case, they believe they've reduced their complaints from these calls by around 90%. Very quickly then on sort of how you use this data to be a much more targeted in terms of your sales activities as well. We've got a number of machine learning models that are helping to predict what you can do with customers in terms of how you would target customers to improve sales. There's a lot of data that comes out, but in terms of a real example, Raiffeisen Bank have identified 7 successful sales phrases that are used on calls, which will help to produce an uplift of 27% in sales performance. So they blind tested this with 2 teams and proves that sort of using these phrases would actually increase that sales performance, and that's all driven by machine learning. Finally, a quick example here, Bizarro Insights providing communication improvements. Again, a whole range of parameters which are being analysed, which all tie back to business outcomes. Is it to do with readability, sentiment, and rapport? Which elements most affect the outcome that you're trying to achieve? Are you writing content in a way which customers understand? Is it helping you to build rapport with those customers? All driven by machine learning, and even the sort of the actions that you can take, shown in the green box here, are all generated by machine learning to direct you to what you should be doing to help the customers. And finally, the simplification process, looking at automation and robotic process automation. Typically, this is the sort of process you would have gone through previously as for a mortgage application. Lots of toing and froing of data and paper and application information from between you and the company. That whole process, which would have taken weeks, it can be automated and turned into a 15-minute process. So the guys at Nevo are doing this with credit unions, and they're allowing you to use secure chatbots. You're using robotic process automation, machine learning, and biometrics, all tied together to create a process that means that in 15 minutes you can have made the application for a loan and received approval and got the money into your bank account. So here, robotic process automation with some extra smart components tied around it really are delivering the benefits of a complete journey to redesign. So when I just wanted to finish on a couple of quick pictures. So this one is a picture that was put together in 1900. It's a cartoon from 1900 predicting what school would be like in the year 2000. I think, what would people think about this image in 1900? Would they think this is where we would be or not? And clearly, we're not far off this if you think about sort of the internet and Google and how information is available to our children today. And so, it is a transformation that has happened over this time period. And we think about our future. And when you look at videos like this, and I'd encourage you to go and have a look at this. This is a model of the future world where augmented reality brings together all of the technologies that are coming out today. And we have to sort of say, is this the future that we want, or is it the future that we will definitely have? I think we have to control this. We have to think about sort of how we deliver what we want as a society and as a business, and for our customers. And take the best bits of these components. So thank you very much. There's more information on Humanotics than Value Irritant on the website link, and happy to take questions later. Thank you, Jonty.
Jonty, you're on mute.
Thank you very much for that, David. We're going to jump across to a quiz now. So if you'd just like to type in callcenterhelper.com/chat, that will take you into the chat room. While you're logging in, if you could put into the chat room, what did you like best about David's presentation? So again, quickest way to get to the chat room, just type in cch.chat into into your browser. Some great points from David's presentation, that natural language understanding, we're now at a point where some of the applications that are now actually exceeding the human benchmark. We're moving from conversational bots to more cognitive agents. I think is a great one, and it's encouraging to see the way that artificial intelligence is being used to improve processes, and in particular helping to streamline some of those processes. So I think that's a great thing to see. So we're just going to go across and have a look at a quiz. So if you can log into the chat room, we've got 41 people logged in. The address here, callcenterhelper.com/chat, or if you just want to type in cch.chat is the quickest way to get in. So let's start with the first question. According to Gartner, what percentage of routine work currently done by managers will be fully automated by 2024? Is it A, 29%, B, 49%, C, 69%, or D, 89%? If you'd just like to press the button at the bottom of the chat room there. So is it A, 29%, B, 49%, C, 69%, or D, 89%? I think we've got a couple of votes still coming in there. So looks like most of you didn't get the right answer. The correct answer is C, 69%. Gartner predicts that 69% of routine work currently done by managers will be fully automated by 2024. The role of the manager will see a complete overhaul in the next 4 years, according to Gartner. So let's have a look. True or false? Many chatbots available in contact centers today contain very little AI. True? Is it A, true, or B, false? So how much AI do you think appears in contact centers today? This is according to an article written by David Naylor. So let's go and have a look at the your results. 16% yes, the actual answer was true. And David, you said in your article, many chatbots contain little AI. The bots only feed a customer's query as text into a natural language processing system that comes back with a code that signifies an intent. So that the bot provides a scripted response. So I think when you're looking at chatbots, you have to look a little bit more deeply beneath the hood. So according to some research that we did at Call Center Helper, what percentage of organizations have a joined up AI strategy in place? Is it A, 9%, B, 19%, C, 29%, or D, 39%? So which one of those, is it A, B, C, or D? And actually most of you didn't get the right answer there. The actual answer was 9%. We did a poll last year, and only 9% of contact centers actually had a joined up AI strategy, with 64% of people were working on it. And then the last question we have is, which famous scientist once said AI is likely to be either the best or worst thing that happened to happen to humanity? Is it A, Brian Cox, B, Alan Turing, C, Tim Berners-Lee, or is it D, Stephen Hawking? Which scientist said AI is likely to either be the best or the worst thing to happen to humanity? And let's have a look at the result. Well, most of you got that right. I think we've got the wrong answer on here. The actual answer for that was actually Stephen Hawking. So that's the overall quiz, and I think let's have a look at the results on that. The winner so far is Callum in terms of the overall. So we'll begin to we'll just double check the results on that one, and then we'll be getting in touch. Now let's have a quick jump across to what's happening in the chat room. We've got a number of tips and questions that are coming through. Tips coming from Laura. Ensure you're constantly checking your bot responses for accuracy, whether through analytics or manual QA checks. If your bot is getting it wrong a lot, evaluate the cause and fix immediately so as not to push customers away. David, that seems like a very sensible approach there.
Absolutely, yeah. I think there's there's a lot of sort of manual checking that that's still needed, and I think we can easily sort of make our bots sort of redundant, if we don't keep on top of it. Almost day by day, sort of customers can be asking you things. So you need a process, you need an owner, sort of the conversation lead, bot lead. It's a knowledge basis. It needs management, needs curation, and needs sort of a proper process to manage that.
Interesting question posed by Peter. And Peter says, how many people do you use to train your chatbot? Miguel, I don't know if you've got any thoughts about that. We've had one answer in from Pico, who says we've got one person dedicated to training and maintaining the chatbot for all different languages. However, every time we launch a new language, we have one native intern helping out for 3 to 6 months to ensure a smooth launch. So Miguel, I don't know what your advice would be on how many people are needed to train the chatbot.
It really depends. It really depends on the solution and on the use cases that we are taking care of with chatbots or with virtual agents. I would say that for people looking for to implement a chatbot or a virtual agent, and they're starting from scratch, I do believe there's a way to do it without advancing with some risks to the customer itself. You can start off by helping your employees by using the virtual agent to get answers to some questions that they might have. And when you gain the confidence on that virtual agent or on that chatbot, you can then try to go ahead and use that chatbot for a given use case. And once it's being trained and adapted to the reality of your company, you can then go ahead and expand a little bit the use cases that it's taking care of. So that would be my advice: to implement AI, do it in a way that it's divided into stages, to different stages that accommodate the evolving part of the chatbots and virtual agents.
And David, I have a question, if we've got a quick answer for it, from Bogdan. How do you scale logistics across multiple locales? For instance, if you've got 5 countries and 5 languages, meaning potentially up to 25 locales, how do you train the chatbots where you've got that sort of wide variety of different languages and locales?
Gosh, a quick answer to that. I think you have to sort of ensure that you've got sort of centralized sort of control over the content. I think, as Miguel's already said, so it's I think you have to have sort of native languages, native language speakers, but sort of keep a central control over the deployment. So yeah, certainly, I think there is a need for local support, I think, to understand what the issues are that are coming up in local countries. So it's almost a star structure where you've got some local experts who are working with a central team. I think that's the way I'd say you work that.
Excellent. Well, I think now is probably the time to pass across to Miguel Caetano. And Miguel, perhaps if you could take us through your thoughts on some of the trends to look out for. We can see your slides there, fine.
Okay, can you see my slides now? Yes.
We can. They're just a bit now.
Okay. So first of all, thank you for all for coming to the webinar. I know under the current situation, it's getting harder to find time. For the ones that just joined, my name is Miguel Caetano. I'm a product marketing manager at TalkDesk, and although TalkDesk is an end-to-end solution for customer service, where we have technologies for customer engagement, workforce engagement, analytics, we have been investing a lot on infusing our technology with AI and with AI-powered solutions. And so I will try to drill down as much as I can in some of the trends that we have been seeing and that we have been studying in the market. So when you first hear the the words artificial intelligence, it is very normal that your mind wanders into some science fiction movie where machines surpass humans and you know, try to take over the world. When you do this, you are creating a wrongful expectation for AI. We are still far from parity between human intelligence and artificial intelligence, just like David explained a little bit earlier. And I do believe that the first step for you to understand AI and how it can help you is to acknowledge its potential, but also know its limitations. And so artificial intelligence today is capable of doing some really amazing things. It's an accelerator, it's an enabler to help you, you know, process and understand data faster, to make predictions, to make more informed decisions. And so I would like to go ahead and look into the coronavirus outbreak as an example, and see how could AI help in this current situation. Well, many say that probably AI could have helped us predict the outbreak. We still don't know if that would be possible or not. But the truth is that today AI is helping us model and track data on how the virus is spreading, and helping authorities to understand how to prioritize in you know, the better, to get to the best way to contain the virus. It is also being used to understand how people are talking about it, and to block misinformation in social media. This is happening right now. And we know that some pharmaceutical companies are already using AI designed drugs to you know, are testing some AI designed drugs, and so it can help us. AI can actually help us find a drug to help us fight the coronavirus. But in my opinion, I believe that there is a part to take. There's a part for AI to take in the way that governments and companies communicate with the population and with customers. And that's why today I found it would be interesting to talk about the AI trends that are influencing customer service and customer experience, but also try to you know, relate and to see how AI can help us in a time of crisis. Not this one, but others to come. And so you have probably seen the chart on the left that shows the relation between, you know, the number of COVID-19 cases and the healthcare system capacity. And it's very curious to see that the contact center has the exact same curve during a crisis situation. So what happens is when a crisis situation happens, the number of contacts rises exponentially, and you get to a point where you can no longer take every customer contact, and that creates, you know, a situation where you lose a lot of calls, a lot of contacts, and in the end you will definitely lose a lot of customers. So in these situations, you can think about doing several things. One of them would be to increase the contact center capacity, for example. But you can also think about flattening the curve and distributing the interactions along time, or reducing the curve. So today I'm going to look into some AI-powered technologies that would help us achieve each one of these possible solutions. So the three main trends that I would like to talk to you about is self-service. So how AI is powering self-service solutions that are helping customers help themselves. The second trend is how AI is helping agents become super agents. And the third one is proactive dialing. And so how AI is actually helping and enhancing proactive dialing, and how what does that mean in our day-to-day life of a contact center. So let's start with self-service. On self-service, I would like to talk about virtual agents, and we talk a little bit about chatbots, and this is very much related to that. So virtual agents are, you know, no more than virtual customer assistants that can answer customer requests without a human agent interfering. a virtual agent can do this in several channels. So we talked about chatbots. Usually it's associated, that are usually associated with chats, but we can talk about voice, we can talk about email, we can talk about many other channels where virtual agents can help you. And what virtual agents do is they use AI as the brain to understand what the customer is talking about and discern customer intent. So understand what does the customer want from this interaction, and then go ahead and look for information either on knowledge bases, CRMs, or other systems, and then deliver the appropriate information to the customer. So for example, if a customer wants to know what is the closing hour of a given office or a given store, virtual agents are able to go ahead and look in the knowledge base and or other external systems, and then getting that information into to the customer in a very conversational way, I would say almost in a human-like way. Or for example, if a caller wants to schedule an appointment, for example, a virtual agent should be able to Q&A with the customer, get all the information that he needs to go ahead and generate an event on a CRM system. So here there is no agent interaction, but still we are able to solve some customer issues. And the word "some" here is very important. When we talk about virtual agents, we are not talking about replacing agents. There is no virtual agent today capable of delivering the empathy and the kind of service and to solve these complex issues, the more complex issues, like a human agent does. And by the way, that's why I do think that when you are looking for a virtual agent solution, one of the key features that you might want to look at is the capability for the virtual agent to hand off calls for live agents if the customer is getting stressed, or the task is too complex for the virtual agent to perform. And so, summing up, what does a virtual agent deliver to the contact center? It delivers the capacity to answer to address the most frequent questions in a conversational way, so that customers can actually get the answers they need without being in queues or avoiding wait time. And at the same time, it helps contact centers improve efficiency. But it also brings the capacity for contact centers to answer to customer requests at any time of day, any day a week. So for many contact centers where it wouldn't be sustainable to have 24/7 support, now with virtual agents, it becomes possible. And the third one is empowering. The fourth one is empowering agents. So I do. Again, the virtual agents are not here to replace the agents. The virtual agents are here to free agents from repetitive tasks and engage them to become experts in diffusing complicated interactions. So they are here to help agents have more time to learn about processes, to learn about products, and to do their jobs better. So now let's take a look into the curve of the contact center in a time of crisis, and what does it mean to use a virtual agent in this situation. So what the virtual agent is doing is deflecting calls that usually would be answered by agents, and that means that you are reducing the number of interactions that impact your installed capacity. So you are going from the orange line to the blue line, and everything in between those lines above contact center capacity, of course, are the calls that virtual agent is actually helping you answer. So let me give you a real life example. In Portugal, there's currently a health line for the COVID crisis, the COVID-19 crisis, created for people that are feeling some of the symptoms, and this line is where nurses and doctors diagnose and advise on how patients should proceed. This Monday, so in this week, there were 27,000 calls made to this line. That's almost 0.3% of Portugal's population. That would be the equivalent in the UK of 200,000 calls in only one day. And afterwards, we discovered that many of those calls were not being made by people infected with COVID-19. They were made by people that had doubts, some reasonable, some not, but still they were calling this line to know, for example, if there was a medicine that was already recommended, if at what time do supermarkets close, and so these are questions that we should not, pass to doctors and nurses that are really needed right now. And so now imagine that we have a virtual agent that could take these calls. And let's say these calls were like 10% of the calls. This is a big impact. So we would say it would mean 2,700 calls that would be taken by virtual agents, and that could be taken by doctors and nurses and actually save lives. So the second trend that I would like to talk to you about is how AI is helping agents become super agents. And this is, I must say, this is one of my favorite trends going on right now. There are two main axes that AI works with to, get agents to becoming super agents. The first one, I know that we mentioned it above, is optimization. So it's getting the right problem to the right agent, and this means optimizing your IVR, optimizing your routing system. So AI here helps because it models the information about the interactions that you're having in your contact center. It clusters that information, and then it tells you, okay, you should. It gives you recommendations on how to improve your IVR or your routing system. And the second part is enhancing agents, and this means to help agents get the information that they need and the tools that they need to perform better and to perform faster. So what is agent assistance technology? What happens is when a customer connects with an agent, the agent assistance technology is listening and transcribing the conversation and using natural language understanding and natural language processing to understand what is being said by the customer and understanding the intent of the customer. And then it is also going at the same time, in real time, going to knowledge bases, into CRMs, and fetching the information that the agent needs. So the agent doesn't have to, put the customer on hold, go to knowledge base, search about the given topic, and then go ahead and deliver that information to the customer. It pops up immediately on the screen. So the agent, it's almost like the agent has a personal assistant always helping him along the way. I will go now to, how is this helping? Again, it's not only this, because agent assistance technology can, for example, help agents in after call notes, expedite work for agents in after call notes so that they don't lose a lot of time on that, because it's analyzing the whole conversation. And these kinds of features, can simplify greatly the work of agents, can increase their performance, and is enabling them to, correctly answer more calls and in less time. And this is particularly interesting, for example, when you are ramping up a new agent, because they will have a guide along the way. So they will be ready way sooner than if they don't have technology like this one helping them out. So what does this mean? Again, let's look at the crisis situation. Let's look at the curve. What we are doing with what it means is that you are increasing the contact center capacity in a time of crisis without bringing even one single new agent. So what agent assistance and helping agents is doing is they are able to answer more calls in less time, and you will be able to answer to all the calls in the orange within the orange area that you weren't able to answer before. And this is without hiring any other agents again.
Miguel, we're getting very low on time, so if you'd like to do your concluding remarks, would be good.
Yeah, okay, perfect. I had one more example. Let me just go through this. So proactive dialing, I will not go into detail on how proactive dialing is what is the characteristics of proactive and predictive dialing, but where AI is helping is to get the best performance possible on forecasting which agents will be available and what customers will answer the calls. And what this can help you with is you can actually, in a time of crisis, again, flatten the curve. You can go ahead and contact your, if you are able to forecast the crisis, you are able to, the peak of calls, you are able to go ahead and contact your, for example, first your VIP customers and solve their issues, or notify your whole customer base and tell them, look, I will call you in 3 days. So you will not have your contact center flooded with calls. So sorry, I didn't switch the slide. So to end up, I just wanted to show you a little bit that TalkDesk is an end-to-end solution, solution for delivering a great customer experience. We go through. I think it just we just lost the slides, but so TalkDesk is delivering an end-to-end solution, and we have AI infused all over our current products. And right now we are developing some offers that will help especially companies that are on-prem still to move to the cloud very quickly, even maintaining their on-premises solutions that they have currently. So that's about it. We have an offer for 3 months. So if you want to know more about these trends and talk about others, yeah, please make any questions that you would like.
You're on mute, Jonty.
Thank you very much for that, Miguel. Some great examples of how contact centers are using artificial intelligence, particularly in this difficult time of dealing with that. We've reached the top of the hour. So the winning tip. Well, first of all, we're going to do the quiz winner is indeed Callum too. We've been busily behind the scenes checking all of the answers, and Callum got the highest score of results, so we're getting in touch with you. And the winning tip goes to Laura51, who says, I work in the tax industry in the US, and we're getting lots of contacts regarding COVID-19 stimulus package. We've added a message to the beginning of the IVR, as well as to all mails, referring customers to our URL with up-to-date information on it, how it affects their taxes. We're hoping this will cut down on some of the agent contacts. Great use of call deflection. If you'd like to complete the survey and as you leave, which would be great, you can get the recording later on today. I know there's a lot of detail, a lot of those like to share with your management team. So thank you very much to our two speakers, David Naylor from Human Optics. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jonty.
And thank you to Miguel Cateno from TalkDesk. Thank you, Miguel.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks, bye-bye.